Welcome to the Podcast Profits Unleashed podcast on Mintwave Radio and all podcast platforms. If you're a coach, consultant, therapist, or healer with an online program and would like to find out how to grow your business whilst having fun podcasting, go to podcastprofitsunleashed.com/free. Let's dive into today's episode.
Welcome to the show. And today I have Alan Lazarus, who is a business coach. And we're going to be talking about how to become the most productive and effective version of yourself. Now, at age 2, Alan's father passed away in a car accident. At age 26, after getting into a nearly fatal car accident himself, he questioned everything that he was doing in life. He questioned who he was and the choices he was making. He was at an all-time low. And he decided to change everything. Although he had a successful career in corporate America, he made the hard decision to start his own business, dedicating to helping others get to the life that they want. Welcome to the show, Alan.
Thank you. Great energy on the intro. I appreciate it. And we'll talk about how to inspire others to believe in themselves at a greater level and have a new self-concept so that they try things and lean into courage to try things that maybe they wouldn't have before. So that's the goal. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. If you'd like to share with our audience what inspired you to help online business owners scale their business so that they could have the lifestyle that they choose.
So early in this journey after that car accident that you mentioned in the intro, so my father passed away in a car accident when he was 28 years old. I was 2 when he passed away, as you mentioned. And when I was 26, I got in a really facing mortality car accident. Physically, I was okay, fortunately, but it really shook me up because I've seen pictures of my dad's car and I've seen pictures of my car and they look very similar. This was not a fender bender. And that's a whole story in and of itself. But after that, I decided that So I was working in corporate and I sold industrial automation equipment as an outside sales engineer. I managed a whole territory, Western New England, really. And I went into manufacturing facilities and I sold machine vision equipment, which essentially is the eyes that guide robots. It's the quickest way to think of it. Or if you picture this water bottle going down a production line, it makes sure the cap's on right and that the spelling is right. It's like quality assurance type of stuff. And I would go into these facilities, picture an ice cream manufacturer that you probably would recognize. And I would go in and I remember this one time, I would see all these pictures on the walls of all these people that used to work there. And now it's just one floor manager and all robotics and automation. And I had this kind of moment where I sold a bunch of equipment to one of my main customers. And I remember seeing the people at the end of the line checking the ice cream container to make sure that it was good and then putting it in the bin. And after I sold that equipment, those jobs were gone. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, automation's coming, AI is coming, there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it. And it's coming whether I contributed to it or not. And I'm a computer engineer, so I'm very sought after and I'm very grateful for that. And that was really hard to do. And computer engineers are very needed in today's world. But back then, I was doing really well, and I saw this really inherent problem in the world, and it's going to get exponentially worse. Here's the problem. Statistically speaking, and please no one villainize me for this, statistically speaking, the less educated population tends to have more children and tends to have them younger. And so if the less educated population is growing exponentially faster than the more educated population, then the less educated population is getting bigger and bigger while we are automating those jobs. So I would go in and I'd do a really good job and I would make a lot of money. I was a 1% global earner in my early 20s. And I saw that the better I did, the less jobs there were, particularly for people that are not educated workers. And I saw this problem. So you have an exponential growth curve of automation increasing and an exponential decrease in the available jobs for uneducated work. And so if you go to a grocery store, a lot of it's kiosks now. That's going to keep happening, and it's never going away. That's going to keep happening forever because kiosks don't get sick, right? That kind of thing. So I saw this issue and I was like, okay, a lot of people are in trouble. And technology's always been taking jobs, but this time it's different. And so instead of, you asked me what inspired me to leave corporate and start what I'm doing now, I said, Alan, you're not the problem. This is going to happen with or without you. But if you're not a part of the solution, you are a part of the problem. And so I decided after that, I need to become a part of the solution because I know this is happening and I know it's not going to get any better. It's only going to get worse and worse exponentially as AI and robotics come up because they're coming up and they're coming up quick. And these facilities that I would go into used to have, in some cases, thousands of workers, and now it's just robotics. And that's never going to change. So I decided to flip the script and say, instead of taking jobs and profiting from that, I want to help create jobs. And I want to help empower people to create their own businesses so that they can create jobs too. And that was my way of how do I help educate people, inspire, motivate, educate people to create their own future and bigger, better, brighter future, especially people who I would consider diamonds in the rough who have work ethic, but they really don't maybe know how. I want to make sure that I at least provide an opportunity to where they can learn. And so I grew up in a very tough environment. I didn't have a father. I had a stepdad who left at 14. And I just fortunately had a great education, and I was told to focus on education. And whether it's professional development or personal development, if you're not focusing on professional and personal development, you are in trouble. And that's unfortunate, but it is the truth. Because the future is going to keep automating exponentially. And the jobs available for people that are not well developed are not going to be around.
100%. But also, I would say a lot of the jobs that people who are highly educated, that have gone to university, a lot of those jobs are going to be gone because of automation. But the thing is, I think so many people do focus on that, what's going to happen, but do you not see it as an opportunity when if those sort of jobs are gone, then it means that people have got to look at something a little bit more creative so that they can, because everybody's going to need work. The fear mongers will say that everyone's going to be on, over here in the UK, we have universal credit, or whatever you call it over there in the States. But I think the fear is that everybody's just going to be controlled and just have this income from the government, from the welfare state. But I don't see it like that. I just see the opportunity that people are going to actually think, if they've got more time, they're going to get a little bit more creative about what they can create. Because I agree, AI is taking over a lot of the menial jobs. And they're great tools that can help us. This is what I say about podcasting. The beauty is you get to show up as your authentic self. And I know AI is getting a little bit scary. You can create videos and have an avatar voice, but I don't think we're going to get there. People are listening to podcasts to learn new things, and they are going to trust the podcaster even more because they are a real person, not reading from an AI script, not an AI avatar. And so I see it as there's lots of opportunities. Do you not think?
Oh, I do. And I think that it's important to hold the duality of facing the reality of the fear while knowing that we can overcome it. And I think I think that some optimism is just naive optimism, and all of us as kids were just naively optimistic. We believed Santa Claus was real and whatever. I don't believe in naive optimism. I believe in optimism while also holding the duality that things are going to be really challenging, but that's okay. Despite that, we can make something meaningful out of it. And that's exactly my point. And that's the point of Next Level University, which is the online place where we help inspire, just like you, people to recreate themselves, reinvent themselves. Because if you are articulate and you're a strong speaker and you can add value in creative ways, and you can package a product, and you can create a website, and you can learn how to use AI to scale, and you can be a strong leader of individuals. So I have a 21-person team, and leadership, I always joke, is the hardest thing in the entire world. How do you harmonize 21 people toward a common goal? That is the issue, right? That's the biggest challenge in the world, and AI cannot do that. So there are certain skills that will always be marketable and will always be important. But are we learning those skills? Are we putting in the effort now for a brighter tomorrow? And are those available? And is anyone actually creating the urgency now to make those changes now so that everyone can have a bigger, better, brighter future? Because the nihilism, which is hopelessness, comes in if people allow the fear. So I have a friend of mine who is a machinist, and he got fired from his job because it got automated, and then he went and got another machinist job. And I remember thinking to myself, that is so reckless. Because you, instead of reinventing yourself, you decided to go right back to the quote unquote old world. So every movie, every film, every narrative, every book is old world growth journey into new world. It's like answering the call type of stuff. And so when you get fired or automated or something bad happens in life, it's what you do with it that matters. And as someone whose childhood had tons of adversity, like caught in a storm, stepdad leaves, father died, just ridiculous adversities I can't even publicly talk about. It's what I did about it. I found a way to get stronger and smarter, even though I didn't even know I was doing that at the time, by the way. But I think underneath that is because I believed in myself. And so that's what I would end with this thought is the people who don't believe in themselves and aren't optimistic about the future. Like, why would we invest today for a brighter future if we don't believe in it? Why would you and I invest in a stock we didn't believe would grow? Why would we invest in ourselves if we don't believe in ourselves? My mission, my purpose, my goal, even right now in this moment, but also on the macro. How do we help people believe in their own bigger, better, brighter future? By believing in themselves, regardless of technology taking most of the other jobs. Because the cool part about this is you think of the snowplow, for example, not the snowplow, the farming plow. A farming plow made the whole world richer. Everybody in the world could now farm and produce more crops with less effort. That's what technology does. So it's not a negative thing, but it is a negative thing for the people who don't reinvent themselves. And I think that's what hope. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, a book comes to mind, Who Moved My Cheese? Have you read that?
Yeah,
a little story about the two mice. That is just shares exactly what you're talking about there. You cannot stop this movement. It's happening. It's here. So you've got to look at ways to adapt change. Change is an inevitable thing in life, right? But so many people seem to resist change, and change in and of itself, even if it was one thing to change, is not the thing they resist. It's just the fact that they've got to change. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I have that book. That book was given to me by a man named Jonathan, who I think is also from the UK. Are you from the UK?
I am. I'm here in London.
Yeah. So that's a famous book over there.
Yeah.
That's interesting. The person who recommended that book to me was from the UK as well. That's interesting. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if you can change for the better, you can become better. But that's personal development, personal growth, self-improvement. And as a kid, I didn't have exposure to this podcast. I didn't have exposure to this idea of, if I improve myself, if I get stronger and smarter and more capable and more competent, and I develop my skills, I can have a life that's bigger, better, and brighter, despite what's going on around me that might be negative. And that's got to be the most empowering thing in the world. But unfortunately, it requires a ton of effort. And a lot of us feel like things are supposed to come easy. And I think that's absolute nonsense personally. But I'm glad we're having this discussion, because at the end of the day, I think that's the root. I think the root cause of all human suffering comes down to ignorance and apathy. I think we either don't know any better, like putting leeches on our skin to solve disease still, I always ask myself, like, where are we still putting leeches on our skin? Where do we still think the world is flat? Where do we still think Pluto's a planet, right? I'm always asking. That's ignorance. And then the other one is apathy, meaning you either don't know enough, ignorance, or you don't care enough. So how do we get people to care more? How do we get people to understand more? And there's a lot of people that I notice that complain about, like you said, the fear mongers, I think is what you referred to. They complain about the economy. They complain about these things, but I don't see them doing anything about it.
Yeah.
And those
They
are two
can't
options, right?
change. You cannot change the external. You can only change yourself. So for you, how do you help these online business owners get these types of results? What is your specific process, if you like?
Yeah, so underneath all of it, it starts with first principles, which is these two things, self-belief and self-worth. And we can go into some of the hows of the business and org structure and business model stuff after, but underneath all of it, it is self-belief and self-worth. I used to think they were the same thing. They're not. Let me explain each. So self-belief, and again, I'm not just saying this, so let me provide context. I've coached, so I surpassed my 5,000th coaching session recently, and I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying it so people know I'm not another talking head. I do this in the real world with real people every single day for the last 6 years, and honestly, even before that. But anyway, so what I've realized and I've uncovered is that there's two types of self-belief, and the psychology calls this self-efficacy. The first type of self-efficacy, self-belief, is your belief in your ability to do the behavior. So can you go to the gym when you say you're going to go to the gym? Can you prospect when you say you're going to prospect? Can you show up to this interview when you say you're going to show up to this interview? So everyone, 0 to 10, how certain are you, believe, that you can do the behavior? And I have one client, her name's Bianca, and she said 10 out of 10. And that's true. She's very disciplined. The second one is where she has trouble. The second type of self-efficacy or self-belief is knowing which behaviors to do to lead to a specific outcome. In other words, the first one is I know I can make this chess move. The second one is knowing which chess move to make. How do you reverse engineer a finish line in advance and then know which behavior? So one of them is I can totally cook, but I don't know the recipe. And so Bianca, she said 10 out of 10 for the first one, but only 2 out of 10 for the second one. So her true level of self-belief is actually a 6. 10 plus 2 is 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Big time math thinker, so forgive me for that. But 6 out of 10, you're only going to invest in yourself at 6 out of 10 if you only believe in yourself at 6 out of 10. Unless you get a good coach who knows how to reverse engineer finish lines, in which case now you're 10 out of 10. And that's what she's done, which is great. And here's the weird part. The people who are really good at reverse engineering finish lines, I also am grateful to be good at that. They have no idea that's a skill. I had no idea. I just wondered why people don't believe in themselves. It wasn't until my business partner, Kevin, said, Alan, no one knows how to do that. It's like my brain just goes, oh, there's the next move. I've had that even since I was a kid. I'm just a math guy. I always have been, right? So I know the formulas. Other people can't do that. So I have one client, they want a house. We coach couples, my girlfriend and I. We reverse engineered the date. We reverse engineered the mortgage, the homeowner's insurance, everything. Okay, here's how much you have to save. Here's how much you need down. Here's the numbers, square footage, all that. They have a plan. And when they get that home, their friends are going to be like, oh my God, how did you do it? And they're going to say, I have no idea. We just followed the game plan that our coaches gave us. And so the first type of self-belief is I am self-disciplined and I can do it. And yeah, that's hard, but if you have that, you're already ahead of the curve. Okay, great work. The second part is knowing which behaviors to do. It's not hard to believe in your chicken marsala when you know you have the perfect recipe. And then the third one, and this is the piece that I sucked at so bad. This is the part I had no clue about. Self-worth isn't, can I build the castle? I know I can build the castle. I'm not doubting that. And that sounds arrogant to anyone who struggles with self-doubt, by the way. Okay, so if you struggle with self-doubt, please don't villainize me. I just believe in myself a lot. Okay? And it's not empty, I promise. I'm actually doing these things. The self-worth piece is, do I deserve the castle? Whoa.
Oh.
that's another game. And so what's ironic is the people who struggle with self-worth, this is what I found in my coaching. The people who have high self-belief don't get along with others easily. Because having high self-belief is very rare. Statistically speaking, only 5% of people ever set goals, and only 8% of them ever achieve it. And so that's, if you have 1,000 people, that's 50 individuals ever set a goal, a written, clear goal with a measurable date, and only 8% of them, which is 4 people out of the 1,000.
That's scary.
8% of 50 is 4. Yeah, it's scary. So I always say, imagine being at a huge sold-out concert in a giant stadium, and only the upper little nosebleed section ever sets and achieves goals. Scary. Why? They don't believe in themselves. You ever meet someone who's super confident and they're almost overly pufferfishy confident? Why would someone with level 10 confidence have level 2 goals? It's not real. It's not real. And the people who do have high self-belief have no idea it's not real because theirs are.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that creates negative self-worth because the people who are faking confidence actually bully the people who have real confidence. And so anyone with super high self-belief basically gets essed on all the time. And it creates this really negative self-worth because they just don't get along with other people. And so if you walk around all day like I do, why don't more people have goals? Like, why? I don't understand. I don't get it. You don't fit in. I've never felt like I easily fit in. If you were to say, Alan, you got to give a speech in front of 1,000 people and you have to add value and hopefully inspire and change their life. 10 out of 10, I'm certain I can do it. If you said, Alan, you need all 1,000 of those people to not hate you, impossible. That would be impossible for me. I'm not an easily likable person. I'm just a weirdo. I study Einstein on a Thursday night. I'm just a straight up weirdo. Here's the thing. My self-worth is so affected by the fact that I've never fit in. And engineers, I think, statistically do have low self-worth, but they have high self-belief because they know how to do things. They know how to reverse engineer outcomes, but they don't fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was this weird prepubescent academic straight A nerd who didn't get along and got bullied by the athletes who naturally fit in. And then over time, eventually you just wake up and realize, holy crap, I'm leagues ahead of these other people, but I still don't feel like I can hold my own in a conversation and actually have the courage to call these people out. I still am scared and tiptoeing constantly. Even right now, I'm vulnerable right now. This is scary to share. And so self-belief and self-worth, that's what I help people with underneath it all. Obviously, we do business and all that stuff. Org structure, habit tracking, metrics is big. But underneath it all, I just help you believe in yourself and help you actually feel worthy. And there's actual ways to build self-belief and self-worth.
And those are the core values. So everything else on top, then they're going to, like you say, they're going to follow through with the plan that you map out for them. What are some of the reasons then, do you think, that stops people from actually, look, every year, the beginning of the year, everybody's told, or they get all excited about writing down their New Year's resolutions, and we both know that come, I don't know, mid-Feb, they're all done pretty much. But what is it that's holding them back?
Almost all of them.
Yeah,
right?
almost all of them. Almost all of them. Yeah, a lot of them have given up. So what specifically, you've touched on this a little bit with the difference between having that core belief in yourself but you could still have that and have low self-worth. So specifically, what is it that's stopping people from actually doing the thing that they've been told is going to help them achieve it, and they're still not getting them written down?
Okay. I'm so grateful for the question, so grateful for this conversation. If you study the psychology, there's a modality called internal family systems. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Okay. So have you ever heard of the Pixar movie called Inside Out?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So there's And if you understand the concept, essentially what it is, there's a little girl, and the Pixar movie is about these different parts of her emotions in her head at this big kiosk driving her behaviors as she develops through life. So there's joy, there's sadness, there's disgust, there's anger, there's all these little characters. Internal family systems is essentially we all have parts of us. Without going down the rabbit hole, there's a part of us known in internal family systems as an exile. An exile is a part of us that is deeply wounded that we try to keep beneath the surface and don't let anyone see. And when someone is healed and empowered and confident and believes in themselves and feels worthy, it pokes our exiles. This is one of the reasons why people that are really empowered get bullied. Oh, must be nice. And that kind of stuff. Because it's easier to tear down your building, Karen, than it is to build my own when I don't believe in myself. I would never tear down your building because I know I can build my own. It's all good. As a matter of fact, our buildings will be bigger together, and it will be a bigger, brighter light together. That, unfortunately, is not common. So let's go down to the wounds. There's two main core wounds, and so for any of the internal family systems IFS psychologists out there, please understand, I do understand that I'm oversimplifying. Right? I'm oversimplifying on purpose to make it practical. I've found two main core wounds. One is referred to as defective. That one is not smart enough, not capable enough, not tall enough, not good looking enough. Not capable enough is what I would say. Okay? Defective, not capable enough. Self-doubt is just plaguing that person. Behind the scenes. In front of the scenes, you probably pretend you're confident because that's what people do. Okay? That's the first one. So defective is much more common than the other one. The other one is unlovable. The unlovables, and some people have both, by the way. We technically all have both, but it's a percentage. So anyways, the other one's unlovable, meaning when I'm alone behind the scenes, I feel super capable. I know I'm smart enough. I know I can do it. I know I can make it happen. Give me enough time and I'll get there. And when you're alone, you really don't struggle with self-doubt that much. But when you're around other people, you are constantly scared of offending others or saying something wrong or not fitting in or triggering other people's insecurities. So the defectives and the unlovables trigger each other all the time. The unlovable has self-belief and doesn't know it, so they unintentionally trigger the defectives. And then the defectives who feel bad and have self-doubt, they lash out at the unlovables, which makes them feel more unlovable. Ugh. I know. And so this is wild. And so I'm grateful we're doing this. What I've tried to do is help people understand which one is the big. We're all righty and lefty. We can use both, but we all have a dominant arm. My dominant arm is unlovable. So it's very scary for me to say, hey, NLU is going to win. We're great. We're going to keep doing well. We've done 1,600 episodes. We've never missed. That is true. All of that's true, but it sounds really arrogant. To anyone who struggles with self-doubt, it sounds, must be nice, bro. Congratulations, you're so great. When in reality, I'm just trying to express. And if I'm really honest and vulnerable, I'm scared to express because I'm used to being lashed out at by people who are just insecure about how little they actually believe in themselves. And it goes one layer deeper too, because the people who are pretending to believe in themselves think that's what I'm doing too. Yeah, they're projecting that onto us who really do actually believe it. And that's why they come to you and they go, oh my God, you did it. And it's, yeah, I said I was going to 5 years ago. What did you think? What did you think I was going to do? Obviously, you didn't believe in me back then, right? It's so funny. But it turns out that most people are actually doing that. They're saying, hey, I want to XYZ, but they're actually just talking. And I had no idea because I was never just talking.
This is all unconscious, right? This is all going on. A lot of people probably just are not even aware that's what's going on because they're just responding to things in a automatic way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, the 4 trauma responses. So when you get poked or triggered, your exile, your deep wounds get poked or triggered, you do fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So anyone who has an auto response to fight, I call you an aggressor. The flight is avoider. The
Mm-hmm.
freeze is disassociate or anxious. You just stay anxious and just don't do anything. Or the fawn, which is the one that I had no idea about, of course, which is just appease. It takes so much,
Right.
Karen, for me not to appease you on this show. You could even see that when I first came into the interview. When we first got on, I was like, okay, don't appease, stay you. It's all fine. She doesn't hate you. It's all good. Right?
You're okay. You're all right.
Okay.
It's a safe space.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what it is? Why we're getting along? You believe in yourself a lot. That's the real reason. If you didn't believe in yourself a lot, I would be triggering the hell out of you.
Oh, okay. As you were talking now, I was thinking, I know which one I always was. I was the flight. I would be
just avoiding
I would
constantly.
be gone. That would be, yes.
You were the rebel.
Very,
the rebel
so.
flight. Yeah,
I was.
Rebel. Yeah.
100%. I found this so interesting because I've learned, actually through doing the podcast, I've learned a lot about myself. I know that I'm ADHD, hyper-focused ADHD, and just fortunate that I've fallen into jobs that actually suited it, including this one. But I just find it so interesting because then things like that come up and you can look back and you go, oh, yes, I did that. Oh, yeah, that was me. But for the listeners out there, I think this is all very good news because it's very empowering because it doesn't have to stay like that, does it?
No, you can get to know your wounds and you can heal. And when I did my research on your show, healing was one of them. Healing, it was coaches, consultants, healers, therapists. And I always joke, but it's got truth in it. I'm playful with it. I don't want to say it's a joke because it's true. If you want a coach, you need a therapist. And if you want a therapist, you desperately need a coach. My business partner and I, he had a therapist, didn't have any coaches or mentors. I had dozens of coaches and mentors, mostly mentors, and I didn't want to do therapy. And it wasn't until my 30s that I started going to a therapist and learned all this stuff. The people who are already emotionally intelligent just want to get more emotionally intelligent. It's like wild to me. The people who are already professionally developed, great resume, great cover letter, professional skills, sales, influence, acumen, leadership, they don't want to go to a therapist. We're all righty or lefty, all of us. And the 21st century requires ambidextrous. I was the computer engineer. I understand the micro, macro economy. I know how every business works. I understand the numbers, metrics, all of it. That's easy. That came easy to me. But my emotional intelligence was not there. And I didn't understand that these deep wounds were the issue. And so I would shrink.
So when did you become aware? When did you become aware of that then?
After the car accident. And my hope is that people don't have to face mortality like I did to wake up to which thing they are and work on the other one. If what you wanted was what you needed, you'd already have it. That's when you ask me the question, but what do I do with my business coaching? The business coaching clients that I have, I work more on the emotional intelligence side than anything. And then the people who come to me that want coaching, they're like, I'm not really a business owner, but I still want to coach with you. They need professional development. You need to learn how to succeed in the economy. I see the world in these two obvious buckets. You have these people that are unbelievably professionally developed, that have these great careers, that have magnificent, lots of money, and they do really well, but they're a lot of times divorced. They take better care of their cars than their own kids sometimes. And they've got millions of dollars in their bank account, but their wives or their husbands are not happy. And then you've got these heart-driven, wonderful, holistic, developed, emotionally intelligent humans who are super into personal development, but they do not win in the economy.
Yeah,
and it's
so
been
true.
like alarming to me how I see these wonderful diamonds in the rough who still make very little money. And it's, what is going on? This dude is a ding-dong, and he makes $10 million a year, right? And I figured it out. It's professional development and personal development. And they're two very different things. One is inner work and the other one's outer work. And the truth is you need both. Everyone thinks they're right, and that's why we're all wrong.
Oh, I totally hear what you're saying. This is why I even started my podcast network, because I consider myself just a student. So after interviewing all these different coaches, therapists, healers, from the conventional to the more woo-woo, I'm open. I'll listen to it all.
I saw your intro. It
And
said with a little bit of woo, I think is
yes,
one of the
yeah,
intros that
it
you did.
used to be called. It used to be called with a little bit of woo woo, and I just thought, this is crazy. I want to create like some kind of a directory for the public to come and find the right fit for them. Because I love what you said just there. If you think you need a business coach, you actually might need a therapist first. You might need to go and do some inner child work or some shadow work. All these things that I'd never even heard of until I started my show. And the whole point was to bring people on to drip feed a little bit of this stuff, because unless you're in that environment, why would you have ever heard? Like you said, you weren't aware. And unfortunately, until you had that bad car accident. And like you say, we don't want people to have to, and you hear this so often when something really major has happened, and there's no need to get to there before being aware that maybe if you're this way, you need to work on that. And if you're that way, you need to work on this. You put it so simply because it makes it sound so like obvious. Yeah, we need to balance this out, right? We need to balance this out. But there's still people that are pulling back and they're still stopping. So what else do you think is slowing people down?
It's the interesting thing that I've found really challenging is, first and foremost, I joke, I'm hoping 36. So I'm 35 years old, but I look 15. And so I'm hoping 36 is when I hit puberty. You know what I'm saying? But I'm a business coach. So when you look 15, in other people's eyes, you don't have the credibility. So my point of this is, how do you help people? You have to have the things they value. That's what I've noticed. It's so unfortunate because I could be the best business coach in the world, but if I don't have what you value, you won't pay attention. I have a magnificent relationship. I have a wonderful home. I have a 21-person team. I've got 1,600 episodes. I used to think, oh, okay, just earn your stripes, just earn your stripes, just earn your stripes. And then eventually you get to a point where it's, wait a minute, that is obviously not the issue. And then you get a Tesla and people look at you differently. And this is so depressing, but it's so true. I used to drive a Subaru, right? Our business did 330 grand last year. I still drove a Subaru, 2009. I don't care. Everyone values cars. They think I show up to a speech in a Subaru 2009. I think it was 2005, actually. I think it was 2009. And they think, oh, he's broke. Why would I listen to him? Unconsciously. And so how do you help people? There's two ways. Either one, they get in a tough car accident, they're at rock bottom, and they're open to anything, like I was after my car accident. Or they have a death in the family, death of a pet, death of a loved one. Something rocks you, and you just get all the humble pie at once. And you just need to find a way out of pain. So that's when you're the most open. That's when you're the most humble. Or you do it through inspiration. Meaning, hey, my lifestyle is unbelievable. I promise I can help you. And so, unfortunately, that requires knowing what people value. And that's why target demographic is so important, which is, that's why I asked you, who's your listener? I need to know what I can authentically say that will have them go, okay, this dude has what I want. And he knows how to get it because he's gotten it. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people can hoodwink you. They can rent a car, take a picture, blah, blah, blah. Careful of all that. There's nothing short of absolute snakes out there. That has been alarming for me, for sure. That's been like brutal in this industry. But for those of you who really want to try to do better, you don't have to have a life or death situation or face mortality, but you do have to have ridiculously high humility. It takes a tremendous amount of humility to get a therapist. I often joke with my girlfriend because she said, I think you're leaving a lot on the table by not having a therapist. It wasn't, hey, you're broken, go fix yourself. It was, I've been doing therapy since I was 12, and I think you're leaving a lot on the table. I was like, huh. And in my male brain, it was like, why would I go to therapy? Right? Of course. And I joke with her. I say, guys can't even ask for directions. Never mind go to a therapist.
Love that. We need to reframe it, don't you think? We need to reframe that whole conversation, because you're so right. People will avoid doing that because they see it as a negative when quite clearly it's not.
It's the most empowering thing that I've ever done. Internal family systems with Carol. I won't say her last name. I've been working with her for 1.5 years now, and I met her. We interviewed her on the podcast years ago. I went with her with a client. It's been awesome. Most powerful thing I've ever learned, and I've learned a lot of stuff. So I'm not just saying this. It's wild to say this out loud because my brain goes, seriously, is that it? The most powerful thing I've ever learned is internal family systems. The most powerful thing in the world. You can look it up. Internal family systems. It's a life-changing modality that will, and I gave you a tiny little nugget of it. And it was like, oh my God, that's so true. And it opens you up to, I'm unlovable. Okay, so now what? Or I'm defective, quote unquote, or whatever. That's my wound. So my point is, therapy isn't you're broken, you need fixing. It's not that. It's go work on yourself and have a guide with you and invest in yourself so that you build your self-worth and so that you can unpack some of this junk that happened when you were younger, and you can rewatch the movie of your own life from a higher sense of awareness so that you can reinvest it into a bigger, better, brighter future. I watched Finding Nemo. I rode my bike when I was a kid. I think it was 2004. And I rode my bike to the theater, and I saw that movie. I saw it again when I was an adult. Completely different. The movie didn't change. I changed. And so that's what you have to do with your own life. And when you ask my story and I share all these things, people always ask me, like, how did you know that? How do you understand that when you tell your story? How did you understand that? Honestly, I didn't understand any of that at the time. I understand it in reflection.
After, hindsight is a wonderful thing when you have that awareness looking back.
Because now you can look back at all your memories and you can say, oh, so that poked unlovable. That one new awareness, you can go, if you have a good memory. I realize not everyone does. So my girlfriend says, Alan, not everyone can do that.
I might not. My children laugh at me because I've got a terrible memory.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Sleep can change your world if you get good sleep. My girlfriend had a really memory challenges, really bad ones, and I got her a book called Memory Rescue for Christmas, and she years later now said it transformed her whole world. So, anyways, if you ever just email me, I would
that's a great tip.
Send you the book. I can send you the book.
Please.
Yeah, I will. Memory Rescue is what it's called. Life-changing. But anyways, so assuming you don't have a bad memory, you can rewatch the movie of your own life and get all the new distinctions. With that one new awareness, you can go, oh my God, that's been happening to me my whole life. And now when it happens again, you can respond differently.
Yeah,
and when you respond differently, you get a new result. And when you get a new result, you get a new identity. And when you get a new identity, then it happens all over again. And so this is a mountain you never actually get to the top of, which is nothing short of exhausting. But yeah, so that's
brilliant. Yeah, that is just so impactful because so many people just feel that they're stuck. This is why they're just having the same kind of experiences, is because of all this. If they only realize that it's all to do with this that's going on in the background, this background programming, because of all these different triggers. So the moment you actually have an understanding of that, oh, how fascinating. Unravel it all. And
which
start
is painful,
start
by the way.
Anew.
Yeah.
I can imagine. I'm sure it's not all fun and rainbows and unicorns. However, again, it's not about the thing. It's about the transformation that it's going to give you and have a knock-on effect to everybody around you. So isn't it worth it? Isn't it worth just investigating a little, finding out a little bit more? So if the listeners are at that stage and are like, actually, that does sound like that could help me, what should the listeners do next?
So you and I had mentioned this. I have a course online that's free, but nextleveluniverse.com is the website. The most impactful place that you could go is Next Level University. It's a podcast, and we do an episode a day on the idea is you brush your teeth every day, you can improve every day. And if you improve by just 1% per day, it can transform your whole life. And I love what you said about transformation, because transformation is possible. And it's not only possible, but it's probable if you put the right inputs into your brain. Everyone having listened to this episode, including me and you, will now forever be a little different, a little better, a little more aware. And that can change everything if you keep that up. And so, Next Level University. And if you enjoyed anything about this, holistic self-improvement, health, wealth, life, and love, mentor in your pocket, the mentor that I would have needed and Kevin, my business partner, would have needed in your pocket from anywhere on the planet, completely free. That's what we say. Yeah, thank you, Karen. I really appreciate it. This has been awesome. So awesome, in fact, that I got in flow and time flew by and my alarm went off.
I've absolutely loved this conversation. It's right up my street. And I'd just like to say that I'm slightly in awe, because one episode a day, did I hear you correctly?
You did, yeah. It's been...
For how long? For how long?
We started with one, 6.5 years ago. We started with one, we bumped to 2, then we did 3, then 4, then we jumped to 5, and then we jumped to 7. Now we do an episode a day every day, and these are not like 5 minutes. We batch them. We have a whole production team though, so I want to make it clear, we could never have started with 7 a day, 7 a week.
No.
7 a day, no.
No.
It's so funny, Karen, because when you say we do an episode a day to a non-podcaster, nothing.
Yeah.
Crickets. Not a big deal.
But to
you
a
say it to a podcaster, they go, wait a minute. What?
Absolutely.
We have 1,600 episodes?
That's phenomenal. Congratulations. It just goes to show you're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk. Because, and this is what I say to people, is the 80% of this is just committing to showing up. And we're, 3 years in. And I have to say that at the beginning of last year, so my New Year's resolution, Alan, was, okay, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to go from one 60-minute show to 3 shows a week.
Nice.
And I kept it up till July, but I was close to burnout. So I did it for 7 months. And I had a small team for the back end stuff, but still I was close to burnout. And I came back down to 2. And now we just do the one big one. And then we do some short, sort of 15-minute, more like streams. They're not podcasts, onto our Facebook groups. Because I love doing this, because it's when you get to speak to people and they share. I could have looked at your bio, Alan, and I'm thankful after speaking to you now, I've got a completely different idea of what you do, right? Because it's only in the asking the questions and hearing your story, hearing actually what is the result you help people get and how you do it. You have quite clearly demonstrated that you are more than competent at helping people get that result. And this is the beauty, I think, of doing this, of showing up. I applaud you for one a day, and you're guesting on other people's. Yeah, I'll take my hat off to you.
Thank you, Karen. I really appreciate it. And it has been, like I said, it's been really challenging, but Kevin's been amazing. I could not have done it alone. And we have an amazing production team too. So,
there you go.
And you going
that's what you need.
3 a week, every week for 7 months, that is something. That is something.
Yeah.
So good for you. And I know you'll keep evolving. I know you'll keep evolving.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. And you'll find all of Alan's details in the show notes. So come back and have a look in the show notes. And so everybody, I will be back next week. Bye for now.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you for listening to today's episode on the Podcast Profits Unleashed podcast. If you're a coach, consultant, therapist, or healer who would like to drive sales whilst having fun podcasting, head over to podcastprofitsunleashed.com/free and find out how you can turn your podcast into a sales machine. We'll see you on the next episode.